everyone, my name is Shandi and one of my friends is Farrell Danuhardi. Today, we would like to present about educational innovation in the community. Knowing and understanding the role and involvement of the community participant is essential to an improvement strategy in education. Knowing whether and how much practice are changing within the classroom, and educational organization, how community develop and use their pedagogical resources, and to what extent change can be linked to improvement would provide a substantial increase in the education knowledge base. There are at least 4 of participants in education. The first one is school committee. A school committee is an independent group of elected members responsible for managing and overseeing the activities of a primary school and to provide it with community support. The school committee is an overall in charge of the school. Its key roles are to sensitize, involve, and effectively communicate educational information to all parents, students, community stakeholders, and to local authorities, and also to work together with the head teacher and other teacher to make prioritize and prepare a whole school development plan and budget. School committee is encouraged to review their current supporting structures, policies, and procedures and develop new ones where necessary. This may include establishing a dedicated family school action team of school leaders, teachers, and parents, or using an existing working group that includes all school committee participants to develop and coordinate all plans and activities. Next is students, parents, or guardian. Families are the first educators of their children, and they continue to influence their children's learning and development during the school years and long afterwards. Schools have an important responsibility in helping to nurture and teach future generations, and families trust school to provide educational foundation for their children's future. At the same time, school need to recognize the primary role of the family in education. This is why it is important for families and school to work together in partnership. The aim of the involvement of students' parents is to encourage sustainable and effective partnership between all members of the school community, including teachers, families, and students. This partnership should view each partner as making equally valuable contribution while respecting different contribution, respect students' needs and preference, address barriers to involvement in school by families, in particular indigenous families, and actively help previously uninvolved families to become involved, and create a better innovative program, opportunities, and learning for students. The third one is Education Council. The Education Council is an institution that seeks to manage and run the social, cultural, religion, skill, and expertise research, which in terms of intellectual, spiritual, and practical education, as a place where people may come together rationally and systemically, while organized leadership and control and so on that are used effectively and efficiently for educational purposes. Different with school committee, we can see the Educational Council is wider and more universal. The following roles are carried out by Education Council as follows: providing consideration in the assignment and implementation of educational policies, as a supporting institution both in the form of finance, encouraging, and personnel in the administration of education, and as controlling institution within the framework of the approval and accountability of the administration and distribution and of education. And the last one is mediator between the government and the regional house of representatives and the community. The last one is learning resources. The purpose and role of teaching and learning resources don't only consist of making educational process more attractive and interesting, but also of encouraging active learning, the development of different skills, and the adoption of desirable values and attitudes of students. Teaching and learning resources can be differentiated according to their different characteristics. They are apparent at the first glance. Their different communication system or using the sense utilized by students in the process of receiving the information has a typology criterion. In the field of didactic theory, as well as in teaching practice, the classification of teaching and learning resources into visual, auditory, and audiovisual resources is almost universally accepted. Next, we would like to present about community participation. The committee may take on variety of school and community function, such as approving school expenditure, participating in school budgeting processes, monitoring teacher performance, publishing the status of learning in the community, raising funds for the school, serving as a channel for parental concern, encouraging parents to monitor and assist in students' learning at home, or facilitating communication and cooperation between school management, parents, and the community.
Okay, for the next, I will continue Kevin explanation. First is in Indonesia context. In the Indonesia case, grants to committees help raise parents' awareness about the existence of the school committee and its members, and increase internal school committee meetings, but do not yield learning results. Training, the most costly intervention, has the smallest impacts on the intermediate outcome variables. The evaluation mostly similar to our context is Blimpo and Evans in Gambia, where they are also able to separate effects of grant versus training, or rather grant alone and grant plus training, while neither intervention shows an effect on learning. With granting plus intervention, there is a change in grade 1 enrollment and other aspects of school-based management, such as establishing school management committees. Looking at evaluation that show more promising results for grant and training interventions, some show change in learning, or at least changes in repetition, failure, and enrollment rates. Then, in worldwide context, referring to the community participation context in Indonesia, other studies also show a relationship between different varieties of stakeholder engagement and learning. Nguyen and Lasible find in Madagascar that providing parents with school report cards and information about what they can do to improve the quality of education, and offering pedagogical and administrative tools to teachers prompts a 0.1 standard deviation increase in the test scores and improvement in student attendance. In another promising example of local level engagement, Jogman and Stevenson shows improvements in service utilization, quality of service delivery, and health outcomes in Uganda as a result of organized meetings with community members and health service providers about the level of services in the village and provide responsibilities. And then we have learning resources. So what are learning resources? Every teacher needs supplies and resources in order to have a successful classroom. Writing utensils, paper, and inspirational wall signs are all useful objects in the classroom, but they are not learning resources. Learning resources are the tools used in educational lessons, which includes active learning and assessment. Basically, any resource a teacher uses to help him teach his students is a learning resource. There are many types of learning resources, but let's look at some of the most common ones. The first one is traditional resources. Traditional resources include any textbooks and workbooks used in the classroom. For example, language art classrooms almost always have literature textbooks, writing textbook, and even vocabulary and spelling workbooks. In addition to this, traditional resources also includes any supplemental reading material like novels or poems outside of textbook. These materials can really help to introduce new concepts to your students. For example, when learning the concept of a theme, a literature textbook can provide numerous reading materials, all displaying theme in different types of literature. In the same way, workbooks can give some useful basic practice activities for new vocabulary words or even writing activities that might be difficult for students. Then, when mastery is shown on the basic level, a teacher can introduce more challenging material related to that concept. The second one is innovative resources. Learning material are part of a learning resource that contains material or lecture material used by the students and lecturers in the lecture process. Learning materials have a systematic structure and sequence, explain the objectives to be achieved, and help students to be able to learn independently so that the accumulative able to master the competence as a whole and integrated. So, innovative learning materials are learning materials that are more flexible in accordance with the needs of students. Flexibility considers and takes into account various aspects that include student characteristics, including intellectual, emotional, and spiritual abilities, as well as obstacles in learning. Innovative learning materials should provide instruction and practice feedback, so it is interactive which allows students to learn the material and present it. To develop innovative learning material, the lecturers must understand how far the interests and talents of students so that students are motivated to learn independently so as to be able to control the competencies that have been determined. Usually, innovative learning resources are in the form of technology and so on. I think that's all for our presentation. Thank you for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.